wow, that music had some like real ups and downs there.
It was kind of interstellar.
Yeah, it started off with like
But
this little jazz track, and then it went to this other thing, and I don't know what to categorize that as, but it was upbeat.
sound check, good.
Very good, very good.
I've been watching. Did you ever get into like Star Trek Next Generation?
Not really. I'm familiar with
So,
it, but not really.
oh, my parents were and my brother were super into it when I was a kid, and I wasn't, but I am now as an adult. But anyways, Seth MacFarlane, who is the creator of Family Guy,
Mhm.
he created he was a super Star Trek nerd, and he created a show called The Orville,
Mhm.
which is basically
Based
like
on it.
Star Trek. Yeah,
Yes.
but it's Star Trek with like comedy.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've watched it, but it's
I've seen,
hysterical.
yeah, I've seen 1 or 2 episodes of it.
And that music was kind of like that's what it
Yes,
was kind
I
of like
see.
reminding me of.
Gotcha.
Like, where is she going with this?
I was like, very good, very good. Real quick before I forget, everybody, my internet has been unstable today, and it sounds like maybe Jill has had a little bit of this too. It's so windy on the East Coast. The temperature has been up and down. It's crazy. So if
Oh
for any
yeah.
reason we like blip out, we'll be back. Okay. So
Well, we'll
just
try.
yeah. Well, yeah, we'll try. Usually my internet's like right back up within like 10 minutes or so, but yeah, we'll do our best, and obviously Jill can post on the Facebook group if for some reason we can't get back.
Mhm,
So
mhm, mhm.
just want to let everybody know. So
Can you believe this is our last stream
I
of
know.
2025?
I just did my last stream yesterday and I was like, "Oh my gosh. I'll do another one this week, but it will be in a different year."
Yeah, it's crazy that how fast time goes. I like the fact that we're like closing the year out like on finishing up a book.
Yeah.
It feels very like symbolic.
It does. It's like a satisfaction, I think. Like if we had still another chapter to go, like next week, I'd be like, "Oh, it's a shame we couldn't finish by the end of the year," but we did. Even though we had some hiccups and we had to do some.
Mhm. Hey, we are nothing if not flexible up in this joint. I'm also pleased that like we're gonna, you know, s- I really do like when we have breaks between books. However, given the fact that we're flexible around here, that wasn't how this worked out at the end of the year, but I am happy to be starting something new that I am excited to read as well. Not only was I excited to read this book and have thoroughly enjoyed this book.
Oh yeah, I have to.
Um
Yeah, I have to.
it's so funny because half of oh God, I really wish it's always hindsight, right? I kind of feel like any conversation we have about the show needs to be recorded so that like we can like splice it into things later. Cause half of me is like, man, I wish I could show your original reaction when I was like, what do you think of this bug?
I
And then splice that with like, I really liked it.
I think a lot of our conversations are not meant for public consumption.
No, true, but you know what I'm
Yes,
saying, right?
I
Where I'm
know
just
what you're
like,
saying.
man.
Yes, I
Um,
do. My initial reaction was, I'm feeling some kind of way about this.
yeah, she's just like, I got like no response, and I was like, I mean, it's okay if you don't like it, it's fine.
No, it has been a fantastic book. I hope one day to meet Aimee Newell to tell her I love this book.
Mhm, mhm.
So much good stuff in it, and I'm sad it's ending. Actually, I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about this topic, but yeah.
I wish there was the option to like look at more of the stuff that she looked at. There's tons of examples in here, but
Mhm.
like we always want more.
Yeah.
So that would kind of be for me a place where I could be like, can we have some more stuff? But before we get too involved in our thoughts and feelings and stuff, let's just do a couple of announcements to get them out of the way.
Got a calendar to look
Um,
at, don't we?
we do. And I added some friends here to it at the last minute. So yeah, this is our very simple looking January calendar.
It's so
Um,
normal looking.
yeah, it's really gonna be business as usual. You will notice I only have one stitch and glitch currently scheduled in here. Part of the reason is the Saturday before is my birthday.
And I'll be out of town,
Um,
so
yeah, she planned that on purpose.
far less
That
important than your birthday, right?
she would be gone for my birthday. But there's also like some other things that we have going on, so I only felt comfortable scheduling one for now. Who knows? We could get a wild hair and be like, we're gonna stream on this day, blah. So just something to keep in mind. Of course, this will end up posted on Instagram. It will be a post on the YouTube. There have been a couple of times that people will leave comments on videos like, "Oh my God, I forgot. I didn't know." If you go to the post section on our YouTube, their calendars are there. If you ever need to be reminded where we are planning to be. And it also ends up in our private Facebook group, which there's a link to that in the description of the video. If you're not in there and you want to be, it's also a place that like you can post stuff to us if you want us to look at something, talk about something, or other members. So that is there. So aside from that, in this moment, we do have to give an assignment to the next book because we're going to go right in to this next week. So we got to be ready. So our next stream is going to be on 1/6. And your assignment for that is going to be chapters 1 through 3, which are pages 3 through 34. And there are not near as many photos in this, but I'm really hoping that just like the dress diary, it'll be a scenario where we can pull up a lot of like supporting kind of like photos or websites or things or other things of interest that go along with whatever we're talking about.
And
And
this feels like such a tiny little bit to read.
yeah,
I mean, there's no pictures, so
no.
but yeah, I'm so excited to start reading this. I've been flipping through it as I've talked about it. I have not read ahead, but I keep like I'll pick up on something like the mauve measles. What is that? We've heard of that before. So, and I did look at the pictures. I did have to look at the pictures. So,
Of course you did.
I gotta be honest with you. So, William Perkin is the man that this book is about. This is him as an old man. This is not when he invented this mauve dye. He invented this mauve dye when he was like 18 or 19. And he is a pretty good looking man. There is this Instagram account that I follow that I love. It's called Hot Victorians. And
What? All right, I need to look that up. What is that?
the owner of the
I'm
account,
actually I think I'm upset with you that you haven't shared this information sooner.
I just assumed you already followed it. But yeah, so so actually I sent this guy in. But yeah, it's good looking Victorians, you know?
Men I wish I dated that are long and dead.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, my dear, before we get cracking
I
here?
don't think so.
Chapter 7.
Chapter 7.
The last chapter. I do have a number of photos. However, this first one is not one of them. Sadly. Actually, the first couple I think I couldn't find. And also, so this first one here, on page 158, the sampler by Elsie Patterson. Can we bring back the name Elsie?
I do like the name Elsie. I worked with an
And
Elsie
that's
way back.
so stinking cute. And this is her sampler here. I tried really hard to find it, but it was sold in an auction, and that's where this photo comes from.
And if I remember correctly in the reading, it is indicated that all of those initials in the center are the initials of the Shakers, like the fellow Shakers, right? Because she was a Shaker.
Yep.
Hey, LJ. I wasn't paying attention to the chat as I should be.
Rude.
Well, while you're looking, I wanted to bring something up on page 159.
Mhm.
this phrase that really jumped out at me, where,
Mhm.
and she's quoting somebody else, but she's talking about family chauvinism, a belief in the superiority of one's own family. And I mean, gosh, we do this today. I mean, just think about getting together with like friends, or I mean your significant other, and especially at the beginning of your relationship, you're like, my family didn't do it that way. That way's weird. My way's right, right? You know, you're always like, my mom didn't fold towels like that. What's wrong with your mom? You know?
Man, I can tell you in this household, we fold towels the way my mother did.
You know, I've come around. I will sometimes I do it both ways. But you know, you have to pick your battles. But yeah, like this is not something that is an ancient idea. This is something that, I mean, even today, that you know, our family units, they're strong. And I think even if you maybe don't have like a good experience with your family of origin, I think there's still things that you know, you learned or did throughout, you know, growing up with that family of origin, that you, in your mind, it's like, this is the best way, this is the right way, this is the way things should be.
I
I
mean, it's really kind of the same psychological thinking as like religious people.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, I just, that really popped out to me, and I was like, this is interesting, you know? I think
Mhm.
this is not just a history book and a textile book. This is like a lot of sociology going on in here, you know? Like, and
Mm.
not a sociologist, but we know some. And I just feel like some of these concepts would be so interesting to like go off into, like, you know, like a bigger, you know, a bigger thing. So,
Well, isn't that kind of the point? I mean, I'm jumping ahead here, but like, isn't that kind of the point that she makes rather in like the conclusion of the book is really like there is so much hiding um within, you know, women's needlework,
mhm,
far beyond like the everyday kind of topic that people come to you at from, you know, use versus show, you know, there's so many layers. I mean, God, could you imagine seeing her notebooks from doing this research?
yeah, I know.
Like, when she's talking about reading diaries and the like, she did, you know, genealogical work on a number of these people, it's crazy. Um, what was I was looking for oh, so, what I found very interesting about Elsie's sampler here, which is 1845, Union Village, Ohio. Um, the blurb here. 42-year-old Elsie Patterson used her sampler to tell her life story. She included the basic facts of her life and also chose verses that have meaning to her. Is she made this sampler like in chunks?
Mhm.
Like on 161 here, a close look at the sampler shows that in 1811, she stitched the top and side borders along with the top section containing alphabets, her name, and the year, and a short verse. Um, and then in 1848, she finished the bottom section with animals, flowers, signature, a verse, and the bottom border. And isn't that so? I was like, oh, a woman after my own heart. Like, isn't that like, I wondered if she walked around going like, all these UFOs that I gotta, you know,
Right.
I gotta finish these UFOs.
Mhm.
Half of me was like, did it bring her as much stress as it brings a lot of other people?
Her works in
Did
process,
it,
her work in progress closet. Like,
yeah, like when people ask me like, how many quilts have you made? And I'm like, does started count? And then yeah, I'm like, I probably have 20 projects going at the
oh gosh.
moment.
I don't even
Well,
want
you
to
know,
even try and count and admit. I was just thinking about one the other day that I was going to pick back up over the summer, but it's a knitting project. And I was going to pick it back over the summer. It's small. And but I was like, oh, it's too hot. I'll just wait until fall. And then I forgot about it. Now that it's winter and the new year's starting, I'm like, I need to pick that thing up because it's a warm thing. You know? And I'm
it's
like, it's like a, you know, it's like a muffler sort of thing. You know, it's a warm thing. I could
like
use
for
it
your
right now.
car,
What?
like for your a muffler for your car.
Yes.
It's a warm thing.
It's a warm thing. Well, I mean, it's something I could be using right this very minute. So anyway.
You know that I am totally posting a photo of you on social media with a speech bubble that's it's a
It's a
warm
warm
thing.
thing. Indeed.
Sorry. Just,
Hey, Janet.
uh,
Oh, 61.
oh
Oh, too many
my goodness.
UFOs to count.
Man, we got up into like the 40s yesterday, and then in the middle of the night it dropped down to 20, and like we'd had rain, and then like we have this crazy wind going on, so
Mhm.
everything turned into a sheet of ice.
Yeah, we haven't really had the precipitation so much. It was kind of like drizzly maybe the other day, but we weren't here. So we came back to like the ground was kind of wet. But yeah, it's just been the wind. Oh, it's like March wind, and you just have that
Yeah,
like blustery, like, ugh.
except it's like our wind chill's like 11. I can even like hear it right now.
And we have so many friends in the
Mm.
Midwest too, like Illinois, Minnesota, all of those places. And it's like that in the winter all the time there. I'm like, how do you all do it? I don't understand.
And you know what else? Hey Jen, haven't seen you in a hot minute.
Hey, Jen.
Um, I'm like, we have friends, lots of friends in warmer places,
We do.
like a Janet.
Mhm.
What are we doing here? Like,
I
like
know.
maybe it's like, yeah, like maybe we should start making plans to like blow this popsicle stick.
Yeah. Stand.
Blow this popsicle stick?
No, not it's a popsicle stand, not a popsicle stick.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Um,
we're taking bids
mhm.
to who wants to adopt us.
Who wants to house us for hibernation season?
I'm super easy going as long as I have coffee in the morning, and Jill needs Dunkin', of course. So
I mean, I sometimes I drink other things, especially if it's not around.
yeah,
Um,
Florida. And Australia. Right now, the weather's beautiful in Florida and Australia. Ow.
but yeah, I could go from some California. So like Janet, hey. We'll see you this time next year. Okay, sorry.
So back to Elsie. One thing that like really kind of back on page 160, it says when 42-year-old Elsie stitched her sampler, she left no doubt as to the motivation behind her work. I mean, she doesn't have any children. She's not going to have any children. She's a shaker.
Mhm.
So it's like, how do
Mhm.
women in a situation like that? I mean, she's no children by religious observance, but also, I mean, there
Mhm.
are women that couldn't have children, and you think about like this again is their like, this is their legacy. They don't have, the direct descendants to carry it on. So, this was probably pretty important to her.
One point to make too. I don't remember what stream it was. I don't know if we were in this book or a different book, but there was a stream in the past times where we were talking about other shaker things. It actually might have been one of the auction review streams where we were
Hmm.
wondering exactly where all the shakers were and how many. And I found it interesting here that on the same in the same column you were just in on 160, at the movement's peak in the 1850s, there were 19 shaker communities in the United
Yeah, I
States.
was surprised by
That's
that.
way more than I thought.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of like a lot of places like Ohio. I guess I didn't even realize Ohio. I don't know. I think in my mind I just always thought of the Shakers as being like this like northeast thing, and I think
Me
I
too.
probably in my mind was maybe confusing them with some of the other groups like the like Amana and Oneida, like those kind of groups. I think I kind of just didn't know enough and kind of lumped them all in together. I still don't know much about
Mhm.
them. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, the Shakers are very interesting. And yeah, I had also highlighted this piece about the initials of the founding Shaker elders and eldresses. I like that. I am an
Eldris? Oh my
eldress. An
god.
eldress.
I am told that is I'm totally using that
Yeah, you're
when
gonna
I
become an
when I get
eldress
older.
on January 10th.
Well, according to Selena. I probably wouldn't have thought about it that way at this point,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Yeah, we were in a meeting, you guys. We were in a meeting, and our dear friend Selena, who's younger than us, she said something to the effect of, "Oh, Jill, now you're gonna be old." And I'm thinking to myself, says the youngest person in this room right now.
mhm. Yeah, Jen
Yes.
says she's gonna make her kids yeah. I'm totally gonna, when people go like, listen to your elders. I'm like, what about the eldresses? We gotta listen to them too, don't we? Don't
Indeed.
forget them.
Indeed.
Because it's almost like an elder combined with like a sorceress. Because that's definitely the kind of elder I'm gonna be.
Weaving
I'm
some
gonna have a
magic.
yeah, cauldron, hexes, spells and potions. Totally.
So, did
Sorry.
you have anything else about Elsie, or shall we move on to Patty Bartlett Sessions?
So, yeah, I think I'm good. I think I'm okay to move on. I had also really tried to find Patty Bartlett's and could not because it's a private
Private
collection.
collection, yeah. But I love
Um,
this one. This one is just so
yeah.
charming with the animals, and it looks
Mhm.
like I don't remember because it's been a while since I actually read this, but I don't know that she really talks about like um the making of this, but this looks like either a very, very, very fine linen or maybe silk. Um and just, in some of these things I'm kind of like my eyeballs I mean, I realize this picture that it's much smaller than it is in real life, but my eyeballs can't even like parse, you know.
I remember, I think, was this the one where she mentioned her like packing away her silk threads? Um, I can't remember, but
Mm, yeah, let
I
me
don't I don't
scanning
know
through
that
here.
I don't know that I don't know that I think the fabric looks like silk. It kind of looks like a linen. I don't know.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I the reason why I say that it could potentially be silk, although I think it's a very, very fine, fine linen, is because a lot of that silk gauze that they would stitch on, they would it would the sampler would lay over something else, and it changes the look. Like if you held it up, you would be able to see kind of with the
Mm,
weave better. But yeah, I think that
mm.
this is kind of a really, really fine linen. But I mean, in what good condition it's in, um, and just really lovely. I think it's really great.
Yeah, and
Um,
this one is Patty Bartlett Sessions, and this is 1848 Utah. And it says in Utah at age 54, Patty Bartlett Sessions completed the sampler she had started as a young woman of 16 in
mhm,
Maine. Yeah, I think this is the one where she packs away her threads.
yeah.
A convert to Mormonism, Sessions took her unfinished sampler with her across the country from Maine. The top and bottom of the sampler document two stages of life that she experienced as she stitched. And actually, reading about this, she moved a lot. It said, at 39, she converted to Mormonism. Missionaries came to her town in Maine in 1833. She held off for baptism until 1834. They moved west to Missouri in 1837 when
Mhm,
Patty was 42, subsequently moving to Illinois in 1839 when Patty was 44. In 1846, when she was 51, that she began to keep a diary. Just a side note here about a diary. At some point later in either in this chapter or in the conclusion, I forget. Um, the author comments that there aren't a lot of diaries and letters from this period that tell us much about kind of like the daily lives of these women.
mhm.
And I don't know, that just feels weird to me. Like
Wh- you
in
mean
a
because
sense that
because there are? I mean, like,
well, yeah, like it was so like my mother was a diary writer. Like
mhm,
she had a journal. We have probably 50 of them in the house. That it stayed on the kitchen table. She wrote in it most days, like things like that. And I know they're generally full of very mundane things, just like these old ones we hear. But so I didn't grow up really writing a diary, but it seems that when I hear about um family members and other women of past generations, that was really common.
mhm,
Way more common than it is now. We'd probably say social media, I guess, for some people has turned into a little more of a diary
mhm.
scenario, like documenting things in your life. But I'm like, I feel like lots of people did that. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
I guess I would take
they
it
definitely
as
wrote letters.
mhm. I guess
So
I
is
would
it
just
more so just
I would take it as
sorry.
maybe like what has survived that has information. You know, because a lot of the diaries are just really like it rained today. you know, Paul brought in the crop. You know, like it's not super, it's not detailed. So I don't know if that's maybe what she means.
Yeah, because
But
I'm even
yeah,
just thinking about,
yeah.
like, Queen Victoria, and what a prolific
Mhm.
diary writer she was. Um, it just really made me thinking. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
was it as common as I think it was? Because I
Well,
feel
I
like
mean,
it
just again,
was.
like what ends up in like a museum or an archive that you can go visit and read. I think a lot of cases, families probably, women did keep diaries or some type of, notation, and families probably threw it away or, you know,
Well, I think talking to, a number of museum professionals that we've kind of met over the last number of years here, I feel like part of the problem here is, and it's getting better, of course, but is the fact that there's actually a lot more than we realize that there are, because we just don't know that they're in
hmm yeah.
collections, because they're not necessarily, like, publicized, but
And
I
in some
don't.
cases, they're just in a pile somewhere. They're not indexed or anything yet because nobody has taken the time to work with them.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm like, it really got me thinking of, like, how many, I'm not trying to, like, be all sappy here, but, like, how many voices are still kind of left unheard just because of lack of resources to hear them, you know?
Yeah.
Just to, like, bringing back anyone that's maybe not been around for a while, when you were doing Dr. Dunton research
hmm
and you found tons of stuff that really hasn't had anything done with it yet because of, again, resources. Didn't you at
hmm
one point tell them, like, you'd volunteer
Oh
labor
yeah,
to help them?
I
Mhm,
volunteered labor to like scan and catalog because it had the collection has been indexed and you know a lot of hands have been through it.
mhm,
But there are big chunks of it that I just like you're almost not sure what the purpose of some of it was because it's not very clear. It was his, kind of his note taking and stuff. Um, but he also was an incredible indexer. However, and I won't take any more time on him, but however, one big chunk of his correspondence is missing, and it is supposed, and he in fact said it himself, that when his daughter forced him to move out of his house and into an apartment near her, um, the grandchildren, her his daughter's sons, packed him up, and they think they just threw them away because they were like, he doesn't need this stuff. So like A through H is missing in his correspondence unless it was somewhere else in the his files. So
mhm.
yeah, I mean those are things that lots of people have read that stuff, but you have to go there to read it, or you have to wait for the librarian archivist to find the thing you specifically want. And it's one of those things. Lots of women wrote Dr. Dunton, and some of it is just mundane. Some of it is interesting stories about their quilts. So yeah,
Mhm.
you're absolutely right.
Mm,
Just,
mm.
and I'm hoping this is going to change, as our technology gets better and better and hopefully more people or at least the same amount of people are still interested in material culture and we can get into museums and archives and at least scan stuff even if it's not like online accessible to everybody. It's at least in a you know, a digital format that could be easily shared or, you know, utilized.
Well, just in the let's see, Nantucket was one, and then we went to the American Folk Art Museum. Both of those museums had, like, iPads attached to the walls
Mhm.
that had pages from books that you could, leaf through. Two of them at AmFam recently, they're there right now. They're dress
Yeah,
diaries,
those were dress stars. Those were
sample
great.
books.
I was like, "Can I
Um,
take pictures?" I'm like, "No, that's
I
not gonna
did.
work."
I took video. One of them was like a sample book from Cochico Mills.
Mhm.
Um, and then when I was on Nantucket, one was like a needlework, like school work kind of book thing. And I was like, this is a really great way to
Yeah,
have the
for
public
sure.
see,
Absolutely.
rare. books and things without worrying about damage,
Hmm.
you know? So
And it is also
I hope
resource heavy
something
to
like that.
create. You know, it's not terribly difficult, but somebody actually has to work with the object. And in the
Sure.
case of a book, it's many pages that they have to deal with. So, yeah.
Yeah, I hope I hope there's gonna can you imagine like taking out like borrowing a digital diary through like Audible?
That would be so cool. Yeah. I mean, even just to like page through, not
Mhm.
necessarily have it read to you, but actually to page through it. Yeah, absolutely. So back to Patty Bartlett, the thing that really jumped out to me here, and because you mentioned she moved a lot, and
Mhm.
obviously at this time, I mean, people did not have like the housefuls of stuff that we have today, but people that move a lot tend to really keep their belongings like very kind of like compact. They don't have a lot of stuff because if they're going to move, and I would say like these were probably not surprise moves because she is a Latter-day Saint and missions are important. So she's probably in the mindset already knows she's going to move. Um but
Well,
the
by the
part
time I mean she becomes a Mormon.
well, right, she's older,
That's
she's an adult, but
yeah,
still it's I think the mindset of like you're going to move. It's not a big surprise. Um but on page 163, the thing that just like, oh, when a torrential rainstorm damaged a lot of her things. And
mhm.
again, I'm thinking to myself, people didn't have a lot of stuff back then. And because she moved a lot, she probably didn't have, like, the things were probably all she had. So, that pointing back to the reason why she picked up the sampler again, just again to have a thing that was hers. Um,
Mhm.
I just, you think about, this is something that my mom often kind of moans about. And I'm like, please stop reminding me of this because it like breaks my heart. But there were some pictures and some other family things we had floods, and things that got destroyed and just had to be thrown out. There was no way to save them. And I'm like, please stop bringing it up because I want to forget it happened. Because every time I think
Mhm.
about like, oh, we had this thing in our hand, if only we had been able to image it or something before it was destroyed. And, fires and floods are just the worst.
Mhm.
They take away a lot.
Um, what else is interesting here on 163 in the second column is this discussion here in the middle of the column about how her husband ended up taking another wife and
Oh,
that
yes.
she seemed to have, some issues with that
Huh?
and that potentially feeling somewhat neglected that she might have been finding solace in her
In her
sewing,
needlework, yeah.
like so many of us do with
Yes,
issues of the world and
absolutely.
our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Mm.
this idea of like I know a number of Latter-day Saints, and obviously they are not in plural marriages because that's technically illegal. But if anybody who has seen Sister Wives, I've only seen it a few times. It is not I don't like to watch that kind of reality TV, but there's
Whatever.
it's I told you I have one little my little dirty secret, which is a different reality show. But again, think about the fact that like this I have a hard time believing that many of these plural marriage situations were happy, you know. Happy for the dude. But the wives, I can't imagine that there wasn't a lot of difficulty with the wives. I mean, they have to cooperate, but I can also see, she's older when this happens. She's not a young woman. And I can almost feel like I don't know, just the idea of like, well, I've converted to this religion and here's what's happening. And it's just like, what did I get myself into? Maybe. I don't know. I obviously can't
Hey, I
second
could
guess,
see
but
you as a woman, I could see you being really happy with that scenario if you hated your husband.
yeah, yeah.
Like, "Oh, Teresa
Unload
can
him on
deal
the
with
other
him
wife,
tonight." Yep,
right? Yeah.
Teresa can deal with him, I'm good.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just looking if there's anything else of oh, on 164, um, the first whole paragraph, many of the samplers and quilts described here, such as the one by Patty Sessions, can be described as life
I
reviews.
highlighted this too.
Mhm. And it's psychiatrists have found that the life review is a naturally occurring universal process in Western societies as aging people remember past experiences and unresolved conflicts, attempting to complete them before they die.
Yeah, that's, I mean, again, every year that you get older, you get closer to this. There's like, I guess that when you talk about
Thanks, Stephanie.
that midlife crisis though that, supposedly you have when you're 40. But yeah, I can think about, like, I would say probably in my 30s I started thinking about, past and people that maybe I hadn't seen in a long time, and like, I mean, yeah, I had a situation with a roommate where it did not end well. And I started thinking about her again in my 30s, and that kind of thing just gets to be more and more the older that you get, you think about stuff. So yeah, this is just yet another thing that kind of got me here. I'm like,
Well,
yes, yes, I understand this.
it's interesting because you're saying the older you get, the more you start to think about things. And in a particular way, this is kind of saying the older you get, the more you start to stitch about things.
Yeah. I have none of my sewing to date has been much of a life review, but I can lay out all of my work that I still own, and I could tell you this is what I was going through during this series. This is what was on my mind through all of this. And sometimes it's like very personal. And sometimes it's stuff like, yeah, this is during the pandemic. This was during, Roe v. Wade being rolled back. This is during, these the riots. Like this all this stuff, like I can definitely see it in my work. I don't know that anybody else could. But I mean, it's especially telling though when it's a sampler that's just made up of words, you know.
I was gonna say, given the fact that your work usually incorporates words, do you envision, like, having read about all this, like, do you envision your work kind of taking that turn to be, like, more personal in that way?
Um, Probably not. Well, I think I would call all of my work personal, very personal.
No, but
But
maybe, like, your own thoughts
right,
or
yeah,
something, like, where it's obvious it's you, like, speaking or something?
not necessarily, because I think that, I mean, kind of one of the things I like about my work, and I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to take us away from this too much, but I like my work to kind of stand on its own without the placard. I want people just to be able to look at it and reflect on what it means to them. Like, what feelings do they get from it? I don't know that it really matters what my story is in it. Um, and I mean, I'm happy to, like, sometimes my placards are not very detailed. I don't necessarily tell like really what's going on, and sometimes the words will tell. The words will give you the idea. But yeah, I don't know that I ever see myself getting to be like, you know, cake is 53. Like, I don't know that I ever see myself going there. Um, just because of the topics I work with, and
Mhm.
but who knows? Never say never.
Janet Janet says, "I have a January 6th crocheted scarf I made in one sitting while watching the news." That is some anxiety crocheting,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I could totally picture it, like,
yeah. I mean, I remember just
watching the
standing in
news.
front of the TV, like,
Mhm,
I could definitely see, needing to just pick up something and, make your hands move so that your brain doesn't explode. Yeah, absolutely.
mhm, mhm.
And I mean,
Um,
even the things like, again, and not to digress too much into this, but even things like temperature quilts and temperature afghans and things like that. That's it.
mhm,
It kind of all falls into the same area of like a year in review, kind of keeping track of something. It's a diary of some sort, kind of.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
these are all interesting things I hadn't thought much about until we were sitting here talking about it.
No, and that's one thing I love about what we do. I do have photographic stuff
Ooh.
for the next one, um, which is Sampler by Ruth Pierce Croswell, 1827, Catskill, New York. And this is from the Litchfield Historical Society in Connecticut. And this is 63-year-old Ruth Pierce Croswell stitched the sampler as a gift for her young granddaughter. Unfortunately, Ruth's granddaughter, Elizabeth Way, died in 1845 at age 21. Croswell kept the sampler, and another family member eventually added the date of Ruth's death along at the bottom. So, one thing, the reason I have two things up on the screen right here is because while I was poking around Litchfield Historical Society, and looking for this person,
So Ruth has two
I
things. They own two of Ruth's things.
there's more than two things. For one that I'm surprised is not in this book, here is Ruth.
Oh, she looks like a stern
Um,
lady. And by the
Another
way,
picture where she's just like, paint the
mhm,
picture
just get it
already.
done. I have some sewing to do. Janet actually just Janet Downes. I just realized, so I just read the first part of somebody's name, and I just realized both of our Janets are here. So Janet says, the Wicasset bed turning, the curator told us one of the quilts had a note from the maker who said she felt like she was losing a friend when she finished it.
Mm.
Yeah, and I mean, again, this idea of crocheting, like while you're, or just stitching, to this life review or this event, yeah, it's like your security. It is your friend.
Also, you mid-Atlanticer. It's Wiscasset.
Okay, all right. We don't have that down here. We've got all
Um,
the Chesters down here.
that's true. Oh my God, so many Chesters. Okay,
Worcester,
so
Gloucester.
I wish there's a part of me that wishes that all these museums would use the same programs to put their stuff online so there was some continuity. However, some are better than others. And this one, in searching her name, brought up lots of stuff. And that's how I found the portrait. And that's how I found that she has also a quilt top in here. So we can look at both, because I love when it's like, oh my God, and this. And I just wanted to show them both on the screen because I believe that there is a thing in here somewhere that mentioned that like she was known for like this like really elaborate quilt top or something. I don't know if it's this quilt top. Ooh, but look at this. This thing's got like all kinds of writing on it.
This is very interesting. I like that center piece.
Can I zoom in? Is there any zooming?
Mm,
Zoomies, please?
it
No?
doesn't look like you can.
Oh,
Um,
what a bummer.
for some
Yeah,
reason, I
look.
did not highlight anything in this section about Ruth Croswell.
Mhm. I remember reading something about.
The virtues for her granddaughter. Um,
No, I was looking for like mention about a quilt because I had been, when I was like reading it, I was like, oh, is that the quilt? Is that the quilt I'm looking at? But now I can't.
I wonder, does she reference
I
anything
was
in
too busy
her?
doing other things.
I'm wondering, did
But
she reference it in her?
in her what?
This table of things?
Oh, me. I don't know, but this quilt looks like something I want to go look at. Because
Yeah.
I want to know. These are so big and so full of text. They look like book pages that she pulled out. I'm not saying that she did, but anywho, so there was that. And now I can pull up her sampler here, which is what is in the book. And I love this thing because it just looks so perfectly wonderfulness.
Yeah,
Um,
she only references the sampler.
okay,
Yeah, she doesn't list the the quilt top.
okay. I do remember that she lives to be like 97, which was a pretty big deal. And
Yeah,
that
that's a big deal even today.
Mhm. That she was like really, let's see, okay. On 167, towards the bottom of the page in the second column, Ruth Croswell died on January 7th, 1862, at the extreme old age of 97. The esteem in which she was held by her community is evident from her obituaries. They report that during her funeral services, all places of business in town were closed, and that the bells of all the local churches tolled as her body traveled to the cemetery. Man, if that just isn't just like, mm. She was quite the eldress.
Indeed. Um,
Mhm.
and then this also on page 168, I highlighted decades after it was initially stitched, the death dates of its recipient, its maker's husband, and its maker were included along the bottom by an anonymous hand.
Yeah, you can tell also, like, kind of the difference in the threads.
Mm-hmm.
See, like, this blue is really vibrant.
And that this is something that kind of just surprises me. And it's, I've never been really a sampler person. I've learned a whole lot about samplers just from the fact that like these books and the fact that you're interested and we have a friend who collects them. Um, I never realized. I mean, I kind of just always thought of a sampler as like, well, there's the schoolgirl aspect of it. And then there's like sometimes they do this genealogy thing. Never occurred to me that there are samplers where another person went and recorded more information, stitched more information. Um, I'm used to seeing Bibles, the family Bible with all the stuff in it.
Mhm,
But needlework to take the time to do, add into the needlework, I think is so interesting. And just not
mhm.
something that I had really come across. And
Yeah, the other interesting thing here is that, this sampler was made, um, for a granddaughter
mhm. Yeah,
and not
Elizabeth.
yeah, Elizabeth, and this is the person that adopted somebody, right?
Mm, I know Elizabeth
Um,
died young, right? She was only 21.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, and this is also the family that was tied to, the Washington family.
oh, yes, the Washingtons.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm just trying to the one thing that stinks about talking about so many different people in each chapter is it's hard to keep everybody straight all the time. The stories can yes. So Ruth and Thomas Croswell, I'm on 167 in the first column, adopted a daughter, Caroline Stanley. She was born in Fort Montgomery, New York, the daughter of Rufus Stanley and Lydia. And those parents died very close to each other in 1801.
Right, yeah.
And Caroline was adopted by the Croswells. And this is where this granddaughter comes from because Stanley married William however you want to pronounce that, in 1815. And their daughter was Elizabeth L.Y. And that's the granddaughter this is made for.
It's interesting that, okay, so they had 10 children, and let's see, there's a daughter named Ruth Croswell Y, but Ruth Pierce Croswell is addressing her message to Elizabeth, who is 4 years younger. And I know earlier in the book there were definitely at least one woman who had granddaughters named after her, and
Mm-hmm.
she kind of chose to sort of dote on them, or I guess devote her needlework, at least in one instance, to them because they were her namesake, or she was their namesake. I can't remember how that works. But in this case, the child that's named after her is not the one that she is creating this for.
Well,
So that's interesting to
not
me.
this particular one. I would argue unless we've got evidence, there's
That
nothing to
she
say she didn't make
maybe made
others.
more. Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Because we do have at least one example in the book where she made very similar quilts, remember, for
This is
all the
true.
kids.
This is true.
Or and then another one I think too that did all the grandkids, right? Something like that. So again, with the diaries, part of the whole like what survives and what doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. A diary might have told us that. Also, maybe the child Ruth was just a real brat, and she was like, "Eh, your sister Elizabeth, much cuter. I'm gonna stitch for her."
God.
Oh my goodness.
Are you ready to move on?
Yes. So we've got Dorothy
So
Knight.
yeah, our next sampler here, which is so funny. So the way that this sampler photo is on page 69, I feel like traditionally this is the color scheme of how samplers show up in older books.
Hmm.
Because look at the photo on the screen. It is not pink.
Yeah, it's color corrected. Um,
Um,
this, I would say this is silk gauze. Because if you look at the in the book, look at the top right corner, you can see
mhm,
like it's see through.
mhm,
Like whatever
yep.
backing is there to kind of protect it, it
Yeah,
extends a little bit. That's
I'm
definitely
surprised at
silk
her
gauze.
attributes that she doesn't mention
Mm,
what it's made of.
yeah.
Um, so this is the family record sampler of Dorothy Knight, 1817, Phillipston, which I have no idea where that is, Massachusetts. I've never heard of that town. And this is at Sturbridge Village. And Dorothy Knight initially stitched her family record sampler in 1817 when she was 14. Over the next several decades, Dorothy or another family member added to the sampler, recording the death dates of her siblings and even Dorothy herself. Wow, that's some
Yep.
talent, huh? To record your own death.
Right. And I'm just noticing here. I mean, maybe I'm wrong here about. I don't want to spend too much time on the what it's made of, but it's saying 44 count bleached fabric. Um,
Hmm.
hmm, I don't know. I guess I could be wrong. I still think it's
That's
silk,
weird.
but
Actually, well, no, it's kind of weird that they would just say bleached fabric.
yeah, I still feel like
What
it's.
is
I still
this?
feel like it's that's in a frame. I wonder if that's how
It
they
looks
got
so
it.
different.
Yeah, I wonder if that first picture's how they got it, and then it was some conservation or something happened for that next picture.
Yeah, let's see here. Let's see the picture of scenes of her room. I'm just trying to the straight olive. Let's see. Family
I have
information.
to say, they're cute little houses with the little smoke coming out of the chimneys.
I love houses on samplers. Pillar
I
motifs.
know.
My house just shook like a concerning amount.
Oh dear.
Material, silk and linen.
Yeah, but that could be linen substrate silk threads.
Sure, I'm just saying like that's um does this blow up at all? No.
We've gotten
Shucks.
spoiled by some of the museums that have like the really high
Man.
resolution
Yeah,
pictures.
like who were we looking at that we were able to like zoom into the actual like warp and weft?
Yeah, I feel like it was one of the big institutions that can afford those kind of programs. Um,
Mm. All right, so
on,
Dorothy here.
on
If I
page
had anything.
170, she's just saying again, Night Sampler, like the others, is the result of
Mhm.
intergenerational collaboration.
Mm.
That is like my new favorite phrase.
Well, even
Intergenerational
the very next
collaboration.
line, she created a document.
Hmm.
And you're the one that's always saying, what are you always saying?
Textiles are documents, quilts are documents. I've had to
Mm-hmm.
expand it to textiles because obviously a sampler is not a quilt. Yeah, and knowing that she could not finish it with her name on there, she knew that it would never be officially finished unless somebody picked it up and finished it for her.
Well, and then there's the story about how her hand came up from the grave and was stitching it in
With it.
front of the gravestone.
Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, like, gosh, mortality was definitely, people kind of had a different mindset about mortality than we do now. But just to put that, I don't know if I know that if I did some like a genealogical thing like this, I made something like this,
Mhm.
and I stitched myself in there with my birth date, I would have no expectation that anyone would ever come back and finish it for any reason whatsoever. I would be shocked out of my coffin if somebody like finished it. So the fact that they're her descendants or somebody, felt the importance of this and finished it. Like I mean all of these, that have stitching after their maker has died. It's just fascinating to me.
Well, I can guarantee that if you have anything like this, and if at any point in time I end up at your funeral, I will get up there and say, okay, nobody touch this. Nobody finish it. Don't even think about it because she did not expect any of us to. So nobody worry. Everybody can go to dinner. Don't touch it. And then you know what? There'll be some time when like somebody's like really upset and they need your advice or they need you to come and put a curse on someone and they'll stitch it to like resurrect you from the grave, like the
There you
mummy.
go.
Like,
There you go. You can bring me back by finishing my work.
and you know what? The way you do it too is not only do you finish it poorly.
And then give it to Goodwill. Oh my gosh. I'm coming back for you.
I'm telling you, it's a movie script. Remember with Mary and Quilt
The
Nerd and the movie
quilt horror.
script that we were it's a
I
movie
think
script.
that one was about a witch making a quilt out of human skin, if I remember correctly. I
Yes,
prefer
that one was far more dark.
I like the horror story of being resurrected, by anger because somebody
Bad
has
stitches.
disrespected my needlework. Oh my goodness.
It's a
Um,
short story. So this next one here by Sarah Holmes, I did not get a picture of, and it's also not a great picture in
yeah, I'm
here.
wondering if this is like a really old picture that they
Oh,
had
it must be.
available. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if
Um,
it's from like a black and
yeah,
white,
I was gonna
like.
say it looks like a black and white. But one thing before we get into that, I wanted to mention,
Mhm.
still on 170, that kind of second paragraph. Although aging women were counseled by their church and their society to seek resignation about the passage of time, in light of the prospect of eternal happiness after death, they still tried to exert some control over it. It's like that, again, like this is, I've beaten this horse dead, but these women are basically being told, stay in your place. You're old. You're going to be the grandma in the corner now. You have no
Mhm.
purpose other
Oh
than to
yeah,
be a
grandma in the
grandma in the
corner.
corner, the spare granny. And these women are like, no, no, I refuse to accept that. Even if I can't, like, I'm not out there burning my bra, but I'm doing some kind of quiet pushback on this idea of I'm useless. Yeah.
I mean, well, you just touched on it there. Like we've seen countless examples of what's the word I want? Subtle disobedience
Hmm.
in needlework.
Yeah, that's subversive. I
Um,
mean, that's that whole idea of subversive stitching is,
mhm.
we saw this wonderful political science professor talk about, it was quilts, like protest quilts, but she talked about like not everybody can be out there like shaking their fist at the riot, like at the protest. And but we have things to say, some of us. And so the idea of using a textile to have some kind of like to make some kind of statement, whether it's like a protest or just your own personal like point of view, I guess. Um, that's that subversive, like, it's quiet. It's sort of done, by the granny in the corner.
Don't underestimate Granny in the corner. She's got shocking things to say.
Exactly.
Um, unless do you have anything pressing about Sarah Holmes? Or are you okay moving on for the sake of time? Because I do have other photos.
Yeah, I didn't really like, other than that, I didn't really highlight anything about Sarah Holmes. Although her sampler
Okay.
looks lovely.
Yes. But we then will move on to a quilt, which I don't think anyone will complain about. So this is page 173, and this is Quilt by Mary Rooker Norris,
Yeah.
Hagerstown, Maryland.
Yes, and this is another one. Like I said, Aimee Newell seems to, I don't know where she is from, but she seems to have tapped into lots of Virginia and Maryland people. So I thought this one was really interesting because it's referencing Baltimore and etc.
Well, then
Um,
why don't you read its little blurb?
okay, so and I love this quilt. I mean, it's a really interesting
Mm-hmm.
quilt. Um, the DAR has it. While family record samplers were quite common during the early 19th century, family record quilts were rare. In this example, Mary Rooker Norris inked the birth and marriage dates of her children in the center block and gave the quilt to her granddaughter as a gift. Now, the situation with this, with Mary's family, there were a bunch of Marys. They were all like all of her girls, all three of her elder children had their first daughters in 1845, and all three are named Mary after their grandmother. How do you keep track? I mean, I realize like that's where nicknames come from, right? how do you keep track of all these children named Mary, right? That one like just blew my mind. Um, and then I guess there's the
Yeah.
one that she kind of doted on.
Yeah. Where is Ugh. Uh,
And also the fact that her mother was name was Mary Berry and had 21 children with Reverend James Rooker. 21 children.
yeah.
Bless
She's
her
rivaling
soul.
the Duggars. Yeah, she's rivaling the Duggars there.
Let's hope there was
Um,
there were lots of twins in there. Poor lady.
where was I reading? Maybe, hold on. Sadly, this photo is not blowing up very good. Um,
Was there
let's
I think I'm thinking of something else. Um
um, Good Lord, number of borders 10. Oh, okay. I guess because they're just counting from the center. Okay.
mhm. Yeah. Center
Um,
medallion and then 10 borders, yeah.
oh, I must, you know what?
Well, and
I was looking for a particular detail, but now I'm actually realizing that it's on another quilt.
what I was just gonna say about this one, I think what I really, other than the many Marys, was the
Mm-hmm.
look of this quilt itself. In that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, she was actually born in England, and there's the question of, you know, all of these chintz fabrics, and you know, I couldn't really tell from the picture, but I'm assuming that's all broderie purse. That one, the one
Yeah,
border that's
it
all the
looks
flowers.
broderie purse. Yeah.
Yeah, and this idea of like border after border after border, that is very English, very Welsh or
Yeah,
English.
the medallion part.
Yeah, yeah, and I can't remember. There's something about like it Welsh quilts. They have to have at least 3 borders, or I don't know, some kind of nonsense like that. But, um, you know, not to say that there are no other quilts like this in the U.S., but like there's definitely a look about this quilt that's kind of different. And I think what we
Mm-hmm.
know about English quilts at this time, it's definitely got that look about it.
Yeah, it says after her husband died in 1829, Mary taught at a seminary for young ladies run by two of her sisters. In 1830, they advertised that Mrs. Norris, whose talents as a teacher will be remembered by many, has returned to the city and will resume her station in the institution.
And
Given the skill,
I'm pretty
hold
sure I
on.
know which institution this is.
Oh, given the skill and artistry of the inscriptions inked on her quilt 16 years later, it seems likely that this is one of the skills she taught at the Ladies' Seminary. What school do you think this is?
I cannot remember the name of it, but it was done by like 1880.
Done, you mean like closed?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yep. And I'm drawing a complete blank. I want to say it was something like super ordinary, like, you know, the Baltimore Girls Seminary or something, Baltimore Ladies Seminary, something like that. But yeah, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it is. Just looking at these dates,
Mm-hmm.
and like the reference that it's definitely in Baltimore, is it's not in
Hmm.
Hagerstown.
Hmm. Interesting. Um, are you ready to move on from this quilt?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, so I'm
This
gonna stop sharing. I'm
the
gonna stop
Mary
sharing for a second.
the Mary Evans sampler, or I mean, it's not even
Yeah,
a sampler,
so this
really.
is
It's a
one.
genealogical record.
Yeah, this is one I couldn't get, sadly.
Yeah, this one is it's so visually different than like any of the other ones. I mean, samplers in general. Um, but I think let's see, what did I highlighted here on page 174. The Evans and Knight family record samplers are particularly interesting because they were made by young girls who then kept them close for the rest of their lives and updated them, demonstrating that they fulfilled functions of identity and expression for their makers for decades. Other completed family records were filled in decades after the maker passed away, showing the value they held for the maker's family as a memorial. The maker died, but the sampler lived on. The horse is dead. I'll stop beating it. But again, this is like that whole idea of she was here and somebody cared enough. This was important enough for her descendants or somebody, in the descendants, to finish this and keep it going. And like, what a beautiful thing. Like, you know? And
Mhm.
again, assuming
This
like they didn't
one
have a lot of stuff. This was it. Like this was the thing they had.
yeah, and this one, like, the the colors and, like, the design of it reminds me a lot more of, like, that kind of, like, mortuary needlework
Mhm. Yeah,
with a lot of, like, weeping
the
willows
weeping willows and stuff. Yeah, it's
yeah,
kind of like it's almost like
um,
thread painting, sort of some of those. Um,
yeah, it's got, like, a lot of satin stitch.
this one, the
And
stitching looks beautiful, but what's interesting is there it says wrought by. It looks like there has been that thread's been pulled out. It's I mean I think it says wrought by N.W.
or
Evans.
it's yeah, or it's just been disintegrated.
It looks I don't know. Yeah, I mean that's possible, but I mean it truly looks like it it left behind like maybe the black of the thread, but that it was pulled out. I don't know. I'm wondering
Or
if
I'm wondering, like, could conservation have removed it because it was, like
maybe
was it
I'm also wondering if just the descendants, you know, maybe not necessarily wanting to erase Mary's work, but to say like this wasn't all Mary. Like Mary didn't do all this. Some of us came in and finished it. Um, I don't know.
well, and also just because we didn't read it. This is the Family Record Sampler by Mary W. Evans, 1824, Providence, Rhode Island. And it says, like Dorothy Knight, Mary W. Evans stitched her family record sampler as a young girl over the next 65 years. Wow,
I know.
so long. Evans or other relative continued to update the sampler, adding death dates of Mary's siblings and eventually Mary herself. The sampler was passed down in Mary's family until 1988 when it was donated to Winterthur.
And what good
Some fun
condition it's
interesting.
in. I mean,
Mm,
considering the
another
fact
one
what
we looked at
yeah.
was donated to whatever historical society in like 1949. And I feel like other ones we've seen where like they'd been donated at some point, I feel like they were often donated in like the 30s, 40s, 50s.
Mhm.
So to see one all the way, like that's my lifetime. It's your lifetime, like up in
Yeah.
1988.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's a long time to keep, something like this in that good a shape. That's really good shape.
It really is. And it's so surprising, I mean, they obviously kept it somewhere safe and even the people that worked on it later were, they're careful with it and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, I also don't have a photo for the next one
Francis fails.
because it's courtesy of a dealer. It's also not super legible in the photo.
Yeah. It's a very tiny little like print, though it's not that the fancy cursive. It looks like it's like a print.
Mm-hmm.
Um the one thing that I highlighted here, um, page 176, the right hand column at the very bottom, um, these needlework family records acted the same way, perhaps even more so, since they required actual physical maintenance on top of the necessary intellectual exercise. So this
Mm.
is, again, like the subsequent generations. And I'm almost like kicking myself for, just kind of dismissing samplers. Even though I know
Good.
I mean, obviously I've seen them before with the family information on them, and I guess I just never gave much thought to them because they just weren't a thing that I was drawn to, really.
Because you were rude.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and you know what's funny? I'm not gonna lie. Is one of my thoughts about like suggesting this book is gonna be like, well, I probably can't talk her into reading a book about samplers.
I do have a book about
So
samplers, though. I do have one.
so I'm like, maybe I could talk her into reading one that has a number of different needlework things in them.
Don't try and act like there was like this grand plan. You just wanted to read this book.
And at first, did you?
It was only for a moment that I didn't want to read it.
I'm gonna tease you forever. Um, I think you want to go on to the next thing because I do have a photo for that.
Yeah. So that is the graveyard quilt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay, computer, stop it. Okay, sorry.
So
Who doesn't love the
this is a
graveyard?
very famous quilt. I feel like people trot this one out all the time around Halloween. When they're looking for, Halloween topic on quilts, the graveyard quilt. Um,
And we did have a chance to see this quilt, but we did not choose to go. So, for anyone watching, if you aren't a member of American Quilt Study Group, you should be. And you should attend their yearly seminar that moves around the country. And Stephanie and I, our first seminar was Louisville, Kentucky in 2023.
mhm. Yep.
And one of, in my opinion, one of the best things about seminar are the field trips.
Yeah.
And one of the field trips included who has this? Kentucky Historical Society.
Mhm.
It included a field trip to their place to see this, among probably some other things too. This quilt's a really big deal for a number of people's research. Stephanie and I instead chose, because oftentimes there'll be field trips that happen at the same time. So like you have
Yeah.
to make,
You have to
it's
make
like Sophie's
it
choice.
is.
Sometimes you
It
got to
really
make
is. It's
tough
difficult.
decisions. And Stephanie and I instead, we went to a place called the Filson Historical Society, right?
Mhm.
Filson Historic.
Yep, the Filson.
Which neither of us had ever heard of, because why would we? And we went there and saw like a buttload of quilts. They have a huge quilt collection that like you'd never know about. The place was
The
incredible.
house was really awesome. I mean, the architectural stuff was also we
Yeah,
got to
like
walk around the house and it was very cool.
it was so cool. And we were just like, we would have never known
Yeah. Yeah.
ever.
While I regret not being able to see this quilt in person, would not change my choice to have gone to the Filson
Mhm.
instead. But the people that went on this field trip, this was all they saw. This
It
they
was the
had
only thing?
this they had an audience with this quilt.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought there were some others in there. Hmm.
As far as I know, no.
Well,
It was this quilt.
if you remember, one of the cool things we saw at the Filson was we were staying at like this like famous hotel downtown that like was historic and stuff. And
The Galt
um
house.
yeah, we saw a quilt that was made by in a oh my God. The guy that did the upholstery.
Uh,
It was leftover fabric from doing upholstery
I, I,
in the Gulf.
oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Totally blanking.
I can see the quilt in my head, but so yeah, choices. You have to make choices.
Choices.
But
Yeah.
again, you often get to get in behind the scenes places.
Yeah.
It's totally cool. Anyhow,
So this is something
so this
interesting. Going back to this quilt in the Mitchell family, on 177, the page before the picture of it, it
mhm.
says the Mitchell quilt also purportedly builds on an Appalachian folk tradition of graveyard quilts, which were made to put over the body at the funeral and then hung over the back of a settee or chair in mourning. So interesting. Had never heard about this. Um, and so I wonder, when we talk about Appalachia, however you pronounce it, you kind of got these different regions. And so I suspect that maybe the graveyard quilts are kind of this like Kentucky, Tennessee sort of region. Because
Mhm.
I'm not aware of any of that with my South Carolina Appalachian folk. So but it's interesting. It's something that I kind of like to know more about. You often see those like death pictures because sometimes that was the only picture they ever had of a person was when they were dead. Um,
Mhm.
and I just don't know that. I mean, we've seen quilts in those pictures, but I guess the person's not buried yet. Then um, but yeah,
You know what's always kind of struck me as a little odd about this quilt is how the coffins on the outside, they feel to me like they're like marching like towards the actual like, graveyard. It's kind of creepy.
yeah, and I understand the she made it. What is her first name? I can't remember. Last name's Mitchell. Elizabeth Mitchell. She made this like grieving her children. Um,
Mhm.
so I will read the thing because we didn't read it, did we? So,
Mhm.
Graveyard Quilt by Elizabeth Roseberry Mitchell, circa 1839, Lewis County, Kentucky. Motivated by her grief over the death of two of her sons, Elizabeth designed this so called graveyard quilt. The coffins along the bottom edge are marked with the names of her children. As family members died, Mitchell and later her daughter would move the coffins from the border into the graveyard in the center. Um, I get, we kind of have, we all have different mindsets in our grief, but this is like pretty morbid, I mean, it's just like you're so, I mean, I can't even imagine losing a child and, much less two of them. And, but this is where she put her memories of these children. This is how she processed her grief. Um, wouldn't have been my choice, but, I hopefully it helped her. I
Mhm.
don't know that I would have necessarily pre-labeled the coffins with my children's names. I mean,
Yeah, I think to me that's the part that feels a little ugh.
yes, like, yes. I mean, I understand having them there so that, you know where the fabric is when you're ready to move a coffin, but it is a bit morbid. It's kind of like I'm picturing maybe her thinking, well, I've lost two sons and I'm making this quilt to, process my grief or, and then she's like, well, all the rest of them are going to die too, so I might as well get ready for that, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Poor woman. Yeah.
Yeah, like, can you imagine, like, going over to her house to visit, and you're like, "Yep, just touching my coffin here, wondering when gonna get moved into the graveyard."
And I'm curious to know, like, how did she keep it? Was this displayed in her home? Or was this something that maybe was kept put away until, you know? I mean,
Well,
there's only four coffins that got moved, right?
part of what you read here, though, describes it as laying over the back of the settee.
Well,
So
assuming that they followed Appalachian, I don't know. I mean, if I was in a mindset to make something like this, I would almost not like, I wouldn't want it to be, I don't want to say I wouldn't want it to be seen, but I wouldn't want to take any chances that something would happen to it. Like somebody would sit on it and, poke a hole in it or put their feet on it or something, I'd kind of maybe keep it away from prying eyes and sticky fingers. But
mhm.
that's me. Um,
Says here on 179, in the maker's mind, her death did not equal the death of the object. Quite the contrary. In fact, Mitchell conceived of and produced her quilt so that it would live on after her sons were gone and after she herself had died, as with the family record samplers discussed here.
yes. And I highlighted that. And I also made a little note to myself. Um, Contrast with today, how often our quilts, we worry about our quilts being sent to Goodwill, and you think about all these quilts that are being made into coats. And oh, I know, I don't want to get off into the whole quilt coat thing, but you think about it, like if I had made a quilt and assume I had used the making of this quilt to process my grief, and from my deathbed, I'm finding out that somebody's going to take that quilt, make it into a coat. I mean, the mindset of people in this time period versus like how we think about these things now are so very different. Um,
Mhm.
and I think I kind of like, not that I know all this stuff when I, originally kind of railed against quilt coats with Mary Fawn's. Um, but I feel like I was kind of tapping into some of these ideas, like, maybe not all quilts are this like pinnacle of fantasticness, but for the most part, I think quilts that are, maybe outside of those kind of like very simple, like one patch kind of things, but anything that's wrought with any type of complexity, whether it's done well or not, is being
Mhm.
made for a purpose, whether it's,
Mhm.
maybe it is just decor, but maybe it's about processing grief, or maybe it's about celebrating something important to you. There's all of this stuff tied up in quilts. Um, and I think that's why I grieve for quilts today, when there's the possibility that they're, being thrown out or made into dog jackets.
Moving on to our last quilt.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And this quilt is wild and I love it.
So we're going now into the conclusion here, and this is the one I was thinking of earlier. This is the Heroes of the Revolution quilt by Rhoda Warner. This is Plainsville, Ohio, 1855. Also, I would just want to say this is Buffalo History Museum. Shout out Buffalo History Museum. Their website is badass.
Really? I'll have
So
to check that out.
yeah, so and apparently if you they have tons of stuff online, and if you're ever in Buffalo, New York, which is like feels like the middle of nowhere, shout out Molly. This looks like a museum really worth visiting, just FYI. So this is Heroes of the Revolution, and just like Aimee Fisk's sampler, which was way back in the beginning, Rhoda Warner's quilt tells a story about her. Born just after the Revolutionary War, Warner experienced the development of the new nation. And as she made her quilt, she witnessed the growing tensions between the North and South. In addition to the political content in her quilt, Warner showed off her needlework skill, employing 6 different techniques instead of just 2 or 3. And that being said, where is the list of this? I know there's a list. Where is it?
Yeah,
I remember.
I think, oh, here it is. It's on page 183.
Okay, go for it.
So Warner's quilt includes 6: piecing, applique, quilting, embroidery, ruching, and stuffed work. The data provided on the quilt's label, number pieces, words, names, and letters, suggests the pride she took in her work.
That's a lot of stuff.
I just love this one because it is like more is more. You go, Rhoda.
Yeah. So Warner later used her needle to make historical references on her quilt, pulling together her 18th century girlhood and her mid 19th century old age. The central section includes 13 circles, each circumscribing a 13-point star, symbolizing the original 13 colonies. At the top of the central section is the American symbol of an eagle. Forming a border around the center group of 13 stars is a chain of embroidered names. Each signer of the Declaration of Independence is included in this chain. A cloth hand pinned to the quilt points to J. Witherspoon and R. Stockton in the circle of Declaration signers.
And that picture is on the next page. But you know what? I do want to go back and highlight the fact that, okay, 13 circles, sure. 13-point star. Try to make a 13-point star, you guys. I mean, you could kind of look at them and see they're a little wonky when you look closely, but my gosh, I mean, a 13-point star is not natural. It's not like any of the ways of drafting that I can think of to create a multi-pointed star simply do not work into 13. So this was pretty amazing however she drafted this.
Yeah, I wish, sadly I can't blow this up. Here's that.
Yeah, the hand pointing to the
Yeah, it was, this is probably, I'm kind of happy that she like saved this one for last because it's so like I really want to go visit this thing.
Yeah, I do. I would love to see this in person.
It is so cool.
I wanted to note on page 184 I had highlighted, it's kind of down towards the bottom, where a male reporter considered the workmanship not remarkable.
You know, what other book were we reading? Was it Tallulah Bottoms?
It was, yeah, there's definitely, and you know,
Or like there was like a reporter that was just like it was like It was like quilts at like the agricultural fair or something.
Yeah, I think there was something like that, and also this is Sue Reich's Quilting News of Yesteryear book. These are all like newspaper clippings and snippets and stuff. There's a lot of stuff in here that's like talking about how frivolous these women are and how these quilts are whatever. They're not that good.
Those men are fired.
Exactly.
One thing I found interesting is, wrapping all of this up and all of the different reasons, the way that Newell has laid out her book here is a lot of different reasons that these quote aging women were doing needlework. On 182, in the first column here, it says, an 1844 needlework guide offered a lofty view of why its readers should pick up their needles. We have a higher end in view than promoting the acquisition of accomplishments, however elegant and pleasing. We wish to direct the minds of those we are thus endeavoring to interest and instruct to the immortal beauties of moral excellence. These works may be made conducive to the development of family affection and the promotion of the purpose of genuine charity, benevolence, and friendship. But there is yet a higher kind of use to which we would apply them. The lady's work and the power and skill to plan and execute it are emanations of the immortal mind.
Yeah.
Damn, man.
Yeah.
That's deep.
It is. Yeah. And then like it goes on into the next section is which is, I highlighted. As the needlework illustrated here demonstrates, women continued to pursue values of industry, skill, hard work, and motherly affection as they age, exactly what you just read, often despite failing eyesight or achy joints. I got those achy joints in my hands for sure.
Um, yeah. I don't know that I had anything else
Yeah, I
super.
don't think I did either. I too, I never got a chance to really read the end notes very well. She's
Mhm,
got like very extensive end notes, and I love these kind of end notes because there's lots of other
mhm.
juicy information in there.
Oh
But
my
I
god,
just
she has so many pages of
yeah,
endnotes.
I just didn't have the time to like to read them all. But
She
um,
also has a really hefty bibliography.
mhm.
And if you're ever looking for stuff to read or you're finding you're wanting to like dive deeper into things, don't ever neglect the bibliography. I have built plenty a book wish list from a
Same,
bibliography.
yes, same. Um, yeah, I almost at this point I almost don't want to look at them anymore because I'm like I have too many books. Don't tell me about new ones.
Yep. Yep. That being said, um I loved this book.
I loved it too. Yeah, I would
Um
really like to talk to Aimee Newell someday.
I feel like it's in my top 5 of what we've read so far.
Awesome. Yeah.
Obviously, the infamous.
Tallulah Bottoms. Are we talking about her book?
No,
No.
no, the infamous worst book we read.
Oh. The book that our friend Tish said she would take, and I was like, you can take this and you can burn it. Here you go.
Oh my god, what was it?
Murder at the Quilt Show.
There we go. That one's firmly on the bottom. Um,
And this one is firmly up there in the top 5.
yeah, well, and like we've read a number of really good
I mean, we
books.
can throw Murder at the Quilt Show, like just throw that one out, but I would have a hard time saying what has been my favorite. I mean, what are my top 5? I don't know. All of them. All of them could be in my top 5. I've learned so much from the books that we've read.
Hmm. Yeah, well, there's definitely I have enjoyed to for some reason or another all of them, but some spoke to me more than other.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
Tallulah. Man, that. But I will say, as much as I love that book and I love Tallulah, that book depressed me.
It was a sad one. Um yeah.
Um, I feel like we should. we should make like a montage type video where we kind of like go back and like reminisce about, because we've read a lot of
We
books at
really
this point.
have. Yeah, and those
Um,
of you that have stuck it out with us, like my gosh, I hope you feel like you've kind of gotten a minor PhD in, in these topics because like we have read a lot.
we have, but you know what? I'm so happy that we did. I never would have read this many of
Mm-mm.
these books, like
No.
cover to cover, in the last 2 years. I would have good intentions to.
Well, exactly. Yeah, and you flip through and
I
you look
would
at the
not
pictures.
have the follow through.
Yeah, you look at the pictures, you get excited about it, you set it on your nightstand, and there it sits for a decade because you never
Well,
open it up again. Yeah.
yeah, well, that and like all the conversation we've had, or when we've gone looking for photos or something, and the secondary things we've been
I know, right?
finding,
Yeah.
and like just think of like all the conversation we had around like the dress diary and how much
Hmm.
history we were saying we didn't know enough about.
Right. Yes.
And
So
even in
yes.
that book, she could only tell us a small amount,
Hmm.
but we remember all that the history in Asia that we were like, "Oh, I
Hmm.
didn't know that this
Yes. That
Um
that was fascinating to me, and then of course all this stuff in the book about Tallulah, was Civil War history. That I know
mhm.
you weren't as aware of those. Actually, some of that was in that book, but some of it was also in Quilts in America, Quilt Making in America.
Yeah.
It's the compilation of
Mhm.
papers. Yeah,
Mhm.
that I think that one
Or
also had.
even or even going way back when we started, early on with like Mary Schaefer.
Oh, Mary
Mhm.
Schaefer, and I own one of her quilts.
Yeah.
Ah!
Yeah. Yeah. There's just I always feel nostalgic when we finish a book. There's like a sense of accomplishment. There's a sense of like togetherness because we discussed it and we had opinions and feelings, good or bad, and or ugly. Sometimes they're ugly. Um, and I don't know. I mean, good God, I doubt there's any place in here where she talks about just how many women she mentions, but she mentions so many women in here
Well,
that
I mean, her table. I mean, not all of them are really
but that's just the
highlighted.
works. She mentions
Yeah.
far more people than just the
Hmm.
works. But it's almost like you've met the 200 people that she discussed in here.
Yeah, and I mean, like they were there. They existed.
So,
So we'll move on to reading about this man. I
yeah,
I
we've got
don't think
enough
he
women.
necessarily had it all that easy, even though he was a man. So
Well, it's just funny. It's just like I'm trying to think of like how many uh textile related books do we have about men? Like the first one I think about is the one about Isaac Singer.
mm-hmm.
That I have read some of, not all of, but man, was he a piece of work.
Oh yes, I've heard some
Um,
terrible things about him.
oh my goodness. Maybe that's one we read at some point. But anywho, as a reminder, if you came in late, for next week, which is the 6th, we're going to read chapters 1 through 3, and that's pages 3 through 34. And sadly, this doesn't have near as many pictures as A Stitch in Time does.
But it does have pictures of him when he was young, and he is a good-looking
And
man.
apparently, Stephanie thinks he was a
He's a hot
fox.
Victorian. Oh my goodness.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm finally gonna go eat some dinner.
I'm gonna finish dinner. I had a little nosh beforehand, so
Another one in the done pile.
I'm feeling good about us and our friends. We've done a good thing
Yeah.
here.
Well, we won't see you guys, so happy New
I
Year for
know.
whatever you
We
end
won't
up
see you till
doing.
next
We're
year.
we're gonna have a seafood bake.
Oh, I'm
And
having fondue.
isn't it also like your wedding
It
anniversary?
is. It is, and I'm
And
making
isn't it a big one?
it's 30 years. You were 10 years old when I got married. Oh my god.
Well, you don't look old enough to have a 30-year anniversary, so you were like an infant when you got married.
This is true. Yeah, this is true. I always say that.
Mm-hmm.
I was just
Mm-hmm.
a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So Janet, the reading assignment is chapters 1 through 3.
Mm-hmm. And that'll be posted on all the places, including the description of this video later. So if you forget, you'll be able to find it again. And also the link to our affiliate link to get this, if you haven't yet, is also in the video description, and it's on social media and places.
All the places. All the places.
All right, guys, we'll see you in 2026.
Yeah. Happy New Year, you guys. See you
Happy
next
New Year.
year.
Bye.